Greetings from the 11th inning stretch. This is our podcast being recorded on June 2nd for release the weekend of June 3rd or June 4th. My name is Paul Eppy, and as usual, I am with my co-host, Alex Schneider. Alex, it's good to see you once again.
Oh, not too bad, man. Living the dream, living the dream. Good to see you, too.
So we are without Jake for this podcast. We're going to have him on every couple of weeks to get his thoughts on things, and in the meantime, it'll just be me and you as usual. And you had brought up a topic last week that is, I think, fairly intriguing. It's the concept of where should we be at with youth pitching and what's the perception about it and how many pitches should kids throw, etc. We had gathered some thoughts on it, and we'll get to it later in the show. But for now, I want to quickly get to league news. Do you have anything substantial for league news?
I'm going to get into it a little bit later because it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I got up this morning, was watching MLB Central. Love the show. I'm a huge fan of Mark DeRosa. But the Padres owner, owner, ripped the team this morning and kind of singled out a player that he said is the problem, and I really don't think that he is. I don't think that said player is the issue. That's not my issue with it. I'll get into a little bit more. I don't want to give anything away now. But yeah, that's just it. The manager, or not even the manager, it was the owner.
It was one of the owners, yeah.
Yeah. He kind of made a phone call to a radio show and was ripping their players. So I'll get into that a little bit later.
I was watching that segment as well. Maybe an hour ago, and
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
yeah, it was interesting, and I have some thoughts on it as well. But the only thing for me I have in league news is Marlon Byrd was suspended 162 games for his second PED violation. We've been talking about steroids probably more than any other topic in baseball on our podcast. We both agreed that the punishment should be more severe because obviously it's not working. This is the third or fourth player this season that has gotten suspended for a lengthy amount of time. It's just one more that bites the dust. I don't think Marlon Byrd's going to be playing again. He's 38 years old. And no one's going to want him because, well, one, he is 38 years old, and two, he has 2 PED violations to him. Who's going to want that? So, yeah, just one more PED violation. At this point, it's starting to come around like clockwork. Every, 2 weeks you hear about a guy that gets suspended for PEDs, and it's you start to have to wonder whether the punishment's working because I don't think it is, and we've talked about it before.
Yeah, that's kind of when when you're getting into like mid-season formers when people are falling to PEDs, and that's really sad to say about the sport that me and you care so much about. That's an issue. Real quickly, like you said, you don't think he'll be playing again. On the same show, MLB Central, they did an interview with somebody, and apparently he had stood up after the suspension came down. He had stood up in the clubhouse with his team and apologized. And he said that this pretty much will end his career. I don't think he's planning on playing again, but he's kind of sad that it went out that way. I personally don't care how he feels. It's his fault. I don't care that he apologizes because I think that this could possibly take the Indians out of the playoff race, which is really sad because I had them going into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Just a key factor like that is going to ruin a good ball club, and that kind of makes me angry. But yeah, like you said, he's going down again, 162 games, so he'll be done for a year, and I don't think he'll play again either.
No, yeah. That's all I have for league news. Do you have anything for fantasy player? We have actually not talked about fantasy players in a while because of our division or our league position players, our favorite position players. So do you have a fantasy player?
Yeah, I just kind of picked one. This guy's kind of been on my mind. We've been kind of dogging him on here a while, and I guess he's been listening because he's kind of gotten hot as of late. But my guy's going to be Matt Adams. I don't know what it is. I think his mentality has changed at the plate. He stopped looking for the off-speed stuff, and now they're giving him a couple more fastballs, so he's seeking dead red fastballs, which I think that's why he's hitting. But he's hitting a lot to the opposite field, which is awesome to see. But yeah, I just wish Colton Wong would get have Matt Adams teach him, which is really strange to say. But yeah, my fantasy player would be Matt Adams.
Mine is sort of an interesting choice. He used to be an extremely good pitcher, and he's sort of fallen off now. But he's done pretty good this season, and it's CC Sabathia. A lot was made last season about his alcohol problem. He went to rehab. He cleaned himself up. That's always good for him. You have to applaud it and feel happy for the guy, considering what he's done and where he's going. In the past couple of seasons, he has not been that good with the Yankees. But so far this season, he's been pretty doggone good. I don't have his stats pulled up here, but he's pitching somewhat, something in the high 2s or 3s when it comes to ERA. And he's not pitching for a really good Yankees team, but he's done fairly well. And he's one of those guys for me that you would like to see continue success because of his history and because of his problems. You want to see a guy like that do well. And so far he is doing that this season, and you got to feel happy for the guy.
Yeah, I think the big thing with him was that he's finally learning how to pitch without that 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He's using other stuff, which is really key when you get longer in your career. That's why people like Jamie Moyer and Bartolo Colon are able to pitch so well, is because they have other. Bartolo Colon throws straight fastballs, but they have late life,
right?
Which is awesome. I'm a huge fan of Bartolo Colon. I guess just being a kind of a big guy myself. But yeah, it's good to see CC Sabathia, one of my favorites.
Before we get into the topic you had brought up with youth pitching and also the Padres owner, I want to get to some Cardinal stuff real quick. I just looked at their upcoming schedule for the next month or so this morning, and if you haven't noticed, their upcoming schedule is absolutely brutal, and we are going to find out what type of team they are, because here's the schedule from now through, June 30th, so this month. They have San Francisco at home this weekend. They go to Cincinnati for 3 games. Cincinnati's not a good team, obviously. And they go to Pittsburgh for 3 games. They have Houston at home for 2. They have the Texas Rangers at home for 3. They are at the Cubs for 3, at the Mariners for 3, and then they play the Royals for 4 games, 2 there, 2 here.
A lot of road games.
A lot of road games. They play 2, if not 3, very solid teams in the AL West. The only gimmies are the Cincinnati Reds, and even that's on the road.
And that's not really a gimme too, because you have there's a lot of good players on that Reds team.
Yeah,
it's the pitching's been awful.
Right. So, between now and June 30th, I don't know how many games they have here. I'm not going to count them up, but there's only one series that you can definitively say that the Cardinals should win, and that's the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to find out pretty soon what type of team the Cardinals are. If they stumble through this stretch, I'm not going to say put a nail in them, but I don't see a path forward to the playoffs if they don't come out of this alive. Because, they go to the Cubs, they have a West Coast trip to Seattle, they go to Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh and Chicago win those series, they're going to have a pretty good lead on the Cardinals. It's going to be now between June 3rd, when the Giants come to town, and June 20th, June 30th, we're going to find out what the Cardinals are made of.
Yeah, and I'll be completely honest with you. If they don't make the playoffs, it's not going to be the end of the world for me. There's a lot of roster turnover with this team, and it's been coming for the last couple of years. The thing if that's the case, if they don't make the playoffs and they're in that roster turnover, honestly, the way I look at it is Cardinals I'm assuming they're probably going to finish with above 500. They're going to have a winning record. They always do. So you could either look at it as a team with a winning record who has a strong potential for the next year, or you can look at it as the Braves as its roster turnover. I mean, you pick your poison for that. Now, like you said, I'm not putting in the confident yet. The thing with, I don't really want to call us like media or nothing, but the thing with media is we always have to look at, we really have to look at things and give different scenarios for them. And a lot of the times it's for the teams that are losing. We kind of count them out real early. But yeah, I mean, I won't be too ashamed of them. Every team goes through roster turnover. It happens.
No, I'm not going to be ashamed in them. But my point is that if the Cardinals do plan on making the playoffs, these are the teams that they have to beat: Pittsburgh, Chicago, Kansas City, Texas. Here it is, folks.
This month, it's rough to say that you get that 1 month. There's always 1 month in a season, a stretch of roughly 30 days that a team goes through and it defines their season. And it's really scary knowing that month for the Cardinals is now.
It's June, right?
It starts tomorrow, and that's, man, it's exciting and it's kind of scary at the same time. I'm looking forward to it. I'll still watch them. I'm not counting them out by any means.
No. Now, granted, they do have 4 days off in there. There's a day off between the Giants series this weekend and the Reds next week. And then between the Pirates and the Astros, there's one. Then between the Astros and the Rangers, there's one. So they actually have 2 off days in 1 week, which is sort of weird. But
yeah, that is. I mean, if you've paid attention to Cardinal baseball in a while, they've never had – it's been a long, long time since you had a week that you go and you don't get baseball 6 out of the 7 days. I think what needs to happen for this, the leaders need to be in the clubhouse, and they need to kind of stand up, and they need to challenge their team. Because I don't care what anybody says. They look at the schedule. They look at the other teams. They know what's going on.
They're not going to say they do, but they do.
Yeah, they're going to give you the whole cliche, we take it 1 game at a time, which is a lot of bullcrap. It really is. Former baseball player myself, I would say the same thing. But you don't. You in the clubhouse, you talk about other teams, what they're doing, how you're going to approach the series. Sometimes you're even like, yep, we're losing this one, boys. Let's move on to the next one. It's they're paying attention. They know. So I think, like the Adam Wainwrights, the Yadier Molinas, the Matt Hollidays of the world need to stand up in that clubhouse and kind of challenge that team to do well and come out of this month at least 500. They have to come out 500.
Yep, and we've been saying it on here is play 500 against the good teams and above 500 against the bad teams, and you'll be in good shape. Now, since I brought up June 30th when the month is over, the AllStar Break begins on July 11th, and from July 1st through July 10th, they have the Brewers at home, then they have the Pirates at home for 4, and then at the Brewers for 3. So there is a little break in there, but again, you have the Pirates for 4 at home. What are you going to do against them?
Yeah, like you said, the good thing is, if there is a silver lining in that this upcoming month, it's the fact that they play all these good teams now, and then later in the season, they play bad teams.
The thing about it is that I said that if the Cardinals don't win, then they're in trouble, and I think that is true. But on the other end of the token, if they do extremely well, they are in the heat of the playoff race.
Yeah, let's just say this now. I'm just going to say it right now. I'm feeling kind of risky. I'm going to give the division to the Cubs. It's pretty much a done deal. We're only 2 months in, and that's what I'm saying. The Cubs right now are on a huge roll. They might lose 3 games in a row, and that's about it. That's as long as a team dump that they have. It's like 3 games, maybe. I'm gonna give the division to the Cubs. Congrats to them. I was wrong on that prediction.
Yep, I was too. I can admit to that.
The Cardinals have to realize that. You have to play like you're chasing the division, but you have to play. You have to play like every day is the defining game, the 162, the last game of the season that's going to define whether you make the playoffs, whether you win the division or win a wild card, or you actually make it to the playoffs or you don't. You have to play with that mentality, and it's really bad to say only 2 months in that's how the mentality you have to play, but they did it to themselves with the lack of pitching, the lack of defense, and at the start of the season, lack of offense. But yeah, I'm chalking up the division to the Cubs. There's a lot of teams that are out and throughout the league. Well, I'm not going to get into that because they don't really matter. But yeah, the division is to the Cubs. Right now, it's between the Cardinals and the Pirates. In my eyes, for who's getting the number 1 and number 2 wild card.
Right.
The Mets will be in there somewhere, but as a Cardinals Cardinal fan, I believe that the Cardinals will be in there, so that's what it's going to be for me.
And we'll get into this in the AllStar break. During the AllStar break, we're going to go, our predictions, and maybe we'll preview the second half of the season, etc. And I'm not one to look a month in advance like this. But when you look at the schedule, you just have to think to yourself, "Oh my God, they are playing they're playing the best of the best. I mean, they really are." And you can't help but think to yourself, "All right, time to play some ball." Okay, so we are. That's all I have for Cardinals news, unless you have anything else. I don't.
Not of right now. Like I said, I want to kind of hit on a little bit in an upcoming podcast about what we do when Johnny Peralta comes back up.
Sure.
Kind of interesting to try and figure that out. Do you move Johnny Peralta? Do you move Lemus Diaz? Do you send Diaz back down? What are you going to do? John Mozeliak usually figures out the best possible way for that scenario. I fully trust in him, like he cares if I trust in him or not. But I think it'll be. I think when Johnny Peralta gets back, that's a huge stick in our lineup for power. So that's not. We're not going to talk about that now. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Everybody kind of wants to know. So
I want to get to the Padres owner thing he said yesterday or today or whenever it was. Real quickly, can you paraphrase what he said about the team and give a reaction to it?
Yeah. So basically, what it was is the Padres owner was on a radio talk show. I don't know, like you said, I don't know if it was yesterday, if it was early this morning, but he basically ripped his team. And it didn't seem like it was the type of letdown that, hey, this is going to drive them to go. This was a serious letdown. Like he badmouthed, and he mentioned some key players. One of them being James Shields. The thing that I have with it is, one, that's not really something you go public with. You don't just badmouth your team on a local radio station. That's something you do in a press conference in front of reporters. You do it in front of the team, where the team can see you. Basically, be a man when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with it is James Shields is not their problem. James Shields is a quality pitcher. Mm-hmm. That's why you're paying him that much money. And
he's going to be traded at the deadline to probably a contending team, and he's going to help a contending team.
Yeah, he's not the issue. Your issue is you don't score runs. That's your problem. It's right. Hard. If you look at it, the problem with James Shields right now is his win-loss record. His ERA is really high, but in the day and age of no offense, your ERA can be kind of high, and you can still win more games than you lose.
Yep.
And it's really hard to win games if your team's not scoring runs. So that's not James Shields' fault. And I honestly, I think he'll get traded way before the trade deadline. I don't think that he's happy right now.
I would be if I was him. He's playing for a terrible team.
Well, not even that, but he went there in hopes to change the team. He went there to hopefully bring playoff baseball to San Diego. And with all the moves they made last year, that's what it was going to look like. But that's not happening now. And plus on top of that, you have the owner, who was the person, let's be real here, he was complaining, basically he was bitching and moaning about how much money he was giving James Shields when he's the one that made the contract.
When he's the one who paid him.
Yep. You're paying him. So if that's a problem, get rid of him. Somebody else will take that contract. Honestly, to be completely honest with you, he could go back to the Royals and pitch because he did really good with the Royals. I could see that happening. And also, I think Will Myers will well. Will Myers, I saw an interview that he did with reporters in front of his locker, and he didn't look happy either. That guy's played center field, he's played left field, and he's played right field. He's played first base now. He's looking kind of natural at first base as of right now. But I think Will Myers will be traded too. I think a lot of their key players are going to be traded. Tyson Ross, Will Myers, James Shields. The crappy thing is people like Alexi Ramirez, who really have nowhere else to go, are going to have to stay. Like John Jay. John Jay's not going to be moved because no one needs John Jay. The Indians may take John Jay now that Marlon Byrd has gone down. But, Norris. How many teams are looking for a catcher right now? Maybe the Braves. Do you really want to go to the Braves? No. No one wants to go to the Braves. Not even the people. I feel so bad for, I'm forgetting his name. Number 1 draft pick from the Diamondbacks and was traded to
David Swanson?
Yeah, I feel so bad for that guy. You go from 4 years at,
Vanderbilt,
winning, and then you go to the Braves, who can't even make it out of their doors at their houses without tripping and falling and losing that day. I mean, that I feel so bad, but no one's wanting to go to those crappy teams. Now, if something would happen and the Phillies get some key players, maybe from the Padres, the Phillies may be able to make a kind of a playoff run. The Marlins I could see the Marlins coming in. I really like the Marlins, to be honest with you. But yeah, you just don't badmouth your club like that on a radio station. One, how many people listen to radio about sports? I do when I'm in the car. Nothing's on the radio in the morning. But other people, they have aux cords. They listen to their music, blah, blah, blah. Do it on television where everybody can see your face, can put a face to your voice, and do it like a man. Do not just do it behind everybody's back and look like a tool. That rubbed me the entirely wrong way. That's not how things should happen. That's the cowardly way out to do things. I feel really bad for James Shields and Will Myers and every other ball player on that club, including John Jay. That's the dumbest thing I think that I've seen in sports, minus the PEDs issues that we have. But yeah, the owners coming out bitching and moaning about the amount of money that players are making when they're the ones paying them.
It just makes me laugh. They're bitching about the amount of money, and they're the ones paying them. You are exactly correct. I just want to expand on one thing. You said that it's not James Shields' fault, and it's not. He's been a pretty good pitcher. It's the offense's fault. I pulled up the Padres depth chart. Oh, it's bad. Melvin Upton Jr., John Jay, he's actually had a fairly good season with him. Matt Kemp, he's not that good anymore. That's their outfield. Their infield is Brett Wallace at third. No. Alexi Ramirez is shortstop. Again, we mentioned him. I feel bad for him because he's playing for a I'm not going to call the Padres a good franchise because they're not. And Adam Rosales is at second base. Okay. Will Myers is at first. And Derek Norris is behind the plate. Who do they have on that team? Nobody. They're terrible.
Yeah, the Alexi Ramirez thing, like I told you, he's one of those shortstops. He's one of those players, basically, that he's an average player, if not above average, because he gets to the balls he's supposed to. He hits the ball like he's supposed to. I heard this in a movie. This is the only job in America that you can fail 7 out of 10 times and still make millions of dollars.
Yep.
Okay, if you have players on your ball club that can't even, 3 out of 10 times succeed, you're a terrible ball club. It's got all, I'm a huge fan of young Jarvis Solarte. I don't know why. I've always liked watching the guy play. When he was with the Yankees, he did really well. And he's on that ball club. He doesn't even have a starting spot because they value Brett Wallace over him at third base, which is stupid. It's just totally dumb. You got Brett Wallace. The Cardinals drafted him. They didn't want him. He goes to the Astros. They played for the Astros for a couple of years. He was god awful. And then you send him to the Padres. Oh, we believe in him. We think he'll be okay. We'll think he's going to be the next Albert Pujols. And he's not even the next high school stud. He's awful. He's terrible. And you're going to start him over young Jarvis Solarte, who's a switch-hitting infielder who can play almost anywhere. No, you have the wrong mentality when it comes to putting players on that field, and it's not anybody like James Shields' fault. It's your front office's problem. It's your owner's problem. It's your general manager's problem. It's the front office. It's their issue. The players have some part in it because they're not performing, but your front office and your managers, it's their fault why your team's not producing.
You have to wonder, to a certain extent, how in the world did the Padres get the All-Star game?
They paid more money for it.
Well, of course they did. It all comes down to money, and I get that. But and San Diego's a beautiful city. I've never been there, but it's on the coast. It's warm. I'm sure it's a great place to be. But that's a terribly run franchise. They last made the playoffs in what, 2006 when they played the Cardinals in the NLDS. And they haven't even come within a slight whiff of the playoffs in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's what makes me think that it's not the players and the managers, it's the owner's fault. Because when you have that amount of mediocrity and just having a terribly run franchise for 10 plus years, that doesn't come down to players and managers. That's all management and that's all ownership.
I honestly feel like he came out and said that because he was afraid somebody was going to blame him, so he wanted to put the blame on somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't care what numbers you give me in this instance. It's the owner's fault. You hire A.J. Preller, who comes in, gives away practically your entire farm system, for literally nothing. Like you had nothing left from all of those trades you made. There's nothing there. That's a management problem. I'm sick and tired of the players being blamed for that issue. I can't stand it. So whoever, I don't remember who their owner is, some pissing it from San Diego, I'd assume.
Obviously, he's not very notable because, yeah.
But yeah, I don't, in my eyes, if you can fire an owner, he would be fired.
Yep. Okay. So in the last couple of minutes here, I want to get to our idea that we proposed last week about youth pitching. You had proposed it, and you said that you had gathered some thoughts on it. Go ahead.
The only thing I have about youth pitching, I'll tell you this: kids look forward to pitching. They really do. They think that it's fun. It's really
like being the quarterback of the football team.
Exactly. It's one of two positions where you handle the ball every play of the entire game. It's super fun. I enjoy doing it. I love doing it. I wasn't good at it. That's why I'm not still doing it. I thought it was great. The problem that we have is that the coaches now for the youth leagues value wins and losses more than they value the players on their team. Mm-hmm. And that's really bad to say because I read an article on Facebook about this 17-year-old kid. His dad actually put it on there. But he had just recently got Tommy John surgery. This
17-year-old, wow.
Yeah. And I'm going to get into that in a minute because I think that there's a wrong view from the public as well. But the kid pitched an astronomical amount of pitches. I mean, it was just ridiculously crazy. And his dad was kind of torn. And he's like, I don't want to make the coaches mad. I don't want him to sit. He wants to play. I'll just let him play. I understand where he's coming from because I would probably end up doing the same. The problem I have with it is that you have to pull him. I mean, you have to talk to the coach. You have to do something because he needs to be pulled because that's it's a dangerous game. And what I'm saying about the public eye is a lot of people see, these 17, 18, 19-year-olds getting Tommy John surgery, and they all think, he's just getting prepared for the draft. He's got the Tommy John surgery. He's fine. He won't need it again. He's out for
get Tommy John unless your arm is absolutely decimated.
Exactly. This isn't a pre-draft procedure. You're not going, hey, it might be fine, but will you just tighten it up for me real quick? Give me make sure I'm all right for the draft. That's not at all what it is. These players and coaches are ruining their arms, basically blowing out their elbow, and people are looking at it as, he's just getting ready for the draft. His parents don't even care, blah, 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 blah. And that's not at all. Parents do care. They value their child's happiness more than they, hold close to their heart what the kid's feeling. Because being a player myself, I'll tell you what, I'd come home, and not in high school. In high school, I kind of lost the feel for playing the game, to be honest. But in junior high, I'd come home, or playing just park leagues, I'd come home, arm would be killing me. I'd grimace here, grimace there. My mom like, are you all right? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I got to pitch tomorrow. We're okay. And I'd go out and I'd pitch the next day. You have a lot on doing it, but it can ruin your arm to an entire extent. And I'm just we need to open our eyes to this issue and know that these kids aren't doing it to get drafted. They're doing it because their elbow is blown out. And the coaches need to take a better responsibility in caring for their players as people rather than potential draft picks.
To me, I'm going to second everything you just said, but to me, it's common sense.
Yeah.
In football, you don't want your kids to get just absolutely pounded into the ground every play. in the major leagues, you don't want, I don't know, name a pitcher, Michael Wacha. You don't want Michael Wacha throwing 600 pitches. So why would you want your kid throwing too many? To me, it's common sense and it's basic health. It's pretty common sense to me why you wouldn't have your kid throw that many pitches and throw their arms out. Because at our at the teenage age, with the body still developing, I mean, everything is more vulnerable because the body isn't developed yet. It's easier to throw your arm out. It's easier to become injured.
Yeah.
While our bodies, say, like a 19-year-old body probably heals quicker than a 35-year-old Major League Baseball player because that body is younger and it's more durable at that age. The threat for injury is still there.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, it's a wrong. Everybody looks at it the wrong way, and it needs to change. This game is a danger.
Oh, I mean, it's like every other sport. I mean, there is dangers.
I mean, to be honest, fans are leaving because the game's not as fun as it used to be.
Well, part of that too is with like the length of the game,
Yeah. But I mean, really, how often? I mean, I'm a huge Cardinal fan. Baseball fan in general. How many times do you turn on a baseball game and watch the whole thing? I'm talking from very first second to very last out. How many times did there?
For me, I mean, I watch parts of Cardinal games. I don't watch entire ones unless it's a like a playoff game or like a big series because, if they're playing the Rockies in a 3-game set in the middle of June, it's hard for me to sit there for 3 hours plus.
Exactly. There used to be a time when watching those games was fun. You were drawn to those games, but that's when every team was good. And I like I said, this game is in trouble. I don't want to go into that any further. Everybody who knows anything about baseball knows. I'm not trying to make this podcast go longer. I'm just very passionate when it comes to the youth side of this game because I loved it. So that's all I got for that.
I just want to make one more comment. You had said how coaches value winning and losing more than having fun and making sure their kids get better at baseball. I umpire youth baseball in a suburb of St. Louis, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really do enjoy it with everything I have. On most nights I do. There are some nights where it's not that fun. But I can personally attest to the fact that coaches do value winning and losing more than their kids getting better. I've done the youngest I've done is 7-year-olds. I've done all the way up to about 12-year-olds. At the younger age, they don't care as much. But when that kid starts to approach high school, you better believe that they value winning and losing more. And I get it. The kid is approaching high school and more competitive baseball, and it gets more intense, and that's fine. But the kid's still developing. So, I mean, the main goal is to have fun and to improve.
Yeah, I look at youth baseball as development. Develop to the next level for more development. Because once you reach the major leagues, there's still development to be made. Because there's players in here who can't do some things but can't. Colton Wong is a major league second baseman who can't feel the ground ball right at him, but can feel the ball in the outfield grass and do it beautifully.
Yep.
I mean, there's development still to be made, and you need to look at it as a development process rather than a win and loss record to boost your personal coaching.
The kids aren't
status.
getting paid. The kids aren't gaining anything out of it. So why focus on the winning and losing?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. But, I mean, like I said, I wanted to touch on that. I saw that article. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And my buddy, who actually knows a lot about baseball, and I kind of had the same thing too, and I started thinking about it. That's why I changed. But, I mean, he said, he's getting ready for the draft. And I kind of was like, man, that's kind of harsh to think about it, because that poor kid's elbow is completely shot right now for the next year.
What's going to happen when that kid's, 55, 60 years old? He's not going to be able to move his arm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that this movement, with his arm may be gone. I mean, there's a good chance, depending on how long his baseball career goes. I mean, and if you think about it that way, think about the people who have Tom John surgery 2 or 3 times. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how much they care about this game, that they're willing to put their body through that much pain to play it. And people don't see that. They see the wins and losses, and that's not how it should be measured. You play with passion, and when you play with passion, you win ball games. That's
correct.
How I look at it.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good discussion. If there's any coaches out there listening, I doubt you're going to listen to a bunch of 19-year-olds talk about how to manage your kid playing baseball, but we want you to think about for a second how to manage your kid and make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. That's all I'm saying.
Manage them as a human rather than as a person, as a paycheck later in life.
Right.
If you were a coach, I'm sure you played at some point in time in your life, and you didn't like it when coach yelled at you and told you to do better. You wanted the fun coach, and you need to be that role model, that person in their life when it comes to baseball. And you have the potential to change the life of a child with the way that you look at that. So take advantage of that when you see it.
Baseball's a great sport, so don't screw it up, folks.
Yeah,
that's all I got, Alex.
That's all I got too. Like I said, thank you guys for paying attention to this. Tell your friends and family. We share this stuff on Facebook. It's on YouTube. We're hoping Jake sends us stuff. His Twitter handle for that, just to kind of promote him a little bit, is I forget what it's called. MLB _NL _AL. Right? Then that's his Twitter handle. And then his website that he has is also that too, just without the underscores. So go check him out, look at the website, look at his Twitter, give him some praise. He's a really cool guy. Actually, thank you, Paul, for bringing him on board. I thought it was really fun last night. Thank you guys for paying attention. This has been the podcast for June 2nd. It's been really fun. Thank you, Paul, for letting me in on this. I don't believe you're static anymore. I really want to know.
Okay, that's good. That's good with me.
Yeah,
it was good to be here.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, for letting me do this. Sorry, guys, if this was a little bit shorter than usual. I actually just got another job today, so I'm going to go head off to that right now. Got to make that money so I can, keep this stuff going. So, like I said, thank you guys very much for paying attention. Give the channel, subscribe. Tell your friends and family, and then go check out Jake. You guys have a good rest of your weekend, and go Cardinals.